you do have the opportunity to take time off, I think it can be very helpful just so you can thoroughly think through what next decision you're making.
Hi, Wolfpack fans. Welcome back to Engineering Pack Pod. Today, we are talking to Olivia Holbrook, a graduate student in Ocean and Resource Engineering at the University of Hawaiʻi at Manoa. Did I say Manoa right, Olivia?
Yeah, so I have a tricky time with this too, but you're supposed to say Mānoa, but it sounded right to me.
Well, good, because I saw something over the A and I wanted to make sure. So, Ma Noah, and she's working on designing low cost, open source ocean instrumentation, including an auto sampler that will be deployed off of Maui. And I know I said Maui right, because I think I might have even been there once on vacation. So, you're making an auto sampler to assess coral reef health after the wildflowers. Also, Olivia is a teaching assistant while she's getting her master's degree. She's a proud Wolfpack alum, and she is doing high impact work at the intersection of sustainability, access, and innovation. And today we're going to dive into what it's really like to do something along these lines. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you. I know we've got a little time difference. We worked all of that out, and you're coming to us live from Hawaii. So we met when you were an undergraduate. You were
hmm
studying engineering. I think it was environmental engineering at NC
hmm
State. And I want to say you were in the practicing happiness class.
I was in your practicing happiness class, and I forget what the title is, but it's like lessons for the college graduate or
Yes, you did both
that
of
one
those.
too. Yeah.
Okay, overachiever. So you were in professional development as well. Yeah, I remember you would
Yes,
always be
professional
dashing
development.
in because you had a class on Centennial and then you had 15
hmm
minutes to get over to main campus. So you got a very big dose of all of these things career and happy focused. So tell
hmm
a little bit about yourself to the listener who is just getting to know you. I know my intro was not all of the wonderful things you've done. What else is interesting about you, Olivia?
Yeah, I guess I'll just talk about my path to get here a little bit. But so yes, I was in environmental engineering when I was a bachelor's, or when I was in my bachelor's program, and then I graduated, and to be honest, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I applied for a few jobs, but unfortunately didn't get accepted to those positions, and so I went on a fun Europe trip for a month, and then I was home for a year with my parents, and I worked in the service industry, worked at a restaurant as a bartender, and I started applying for graduate school because I did a lot of like self-reflection. And I just realized that environmental engineering was interesting to me, but it was a little bit adjacent to where I wanted to be. So I had to do a lot of research to figure out what programs would be a right fit for me. And I landed on this program in Hawaii, and it's called the Ocean and Resources Engineering Program or Department. And so now I'm here. I'm studying oceanographic engineering, which really is designing instruments and devices for oceanographers to use. So that is, yeah, that's my work here. Besides that, as a person, I enjoy running and surfing now and like journaling. I like hiking. My hobbies have definitely changed now that I've gotten here, but I think for the better. I think I'm a lot more active and yeah, I love it.
That's wonderful, Olivia. I think I remember, were you on the club basketball team when you were at state? Okay.
Yes.
So you've now branched out into surfing, which of course you have to. I mean, you're living in Hawaii.
Mhm.
And like I said, when we first met, you were an undergrad, and I think it was right after COVID. I feel like it was just all the craziness. Well, remind me what year you graduated.
I graduated in 2024.
Okay. So you came into college a little bit. I guess it hit you more in high school, the COVID stuff.
It was like my senior year of high school was hit, and then my first and second semesters of college. Yeah.
Right, right. Okay. So When we were talking in class, I'm gonna put you on the spot here just to think back to
Yeah.
those classes that we were in, which was practicing happiness. And obviously that's so important in everyone's life, is to think about that life is not always happy, but that you're gonna have ups and downs. But what did you take away from that class? I'm just curious.
I think that class for me was really nice because it was a great mix between my very difficult engineering classes, where it was just time dedicated in my day to think about myself and think about happiness and think about like just regulating my emotions and myself. So I really enjoyed the class. I think probably what I took away is that you need to have time for yourself set into your routine, which I still struggle with now, but I think having a class like that is really cool because when you're a college student, all you're thinking about is classes. And so if you have a class that is dedicated for you to then think about yourself and think about your happiness, you will do it. And it's like for me, that was my core focus. It was class, homework. I mean, I would hang out with my friends and stuff. So it was really just social and academics. And so fitting in that like self-care time in a class form was really cool.
And being in the engineering curriculum is very intense, as you recall. And so, not being in a class where you are constantly stressed out and trying to
Hmm.
perform and being able to have a little bit more of a laid back kind of self care approach, I think I'm glad to hear you say that that had a positive impact on you. And then the professional development one. Do you remember back when we were in that class? And I feel like you were in Marianne Fox teaching lab, because I do remember seeing you dash in, and we would put our success scaffold up on the wall. Does this ring a bell to you?
Hmm.
So it's basically like your goal for after you graduated. And we kind of walked through and scaffold, like, how do I get to my goal? But then I heard you in your introduction say you really didn't know what you wanted to do. You started as a bartender, you then found this graduate program. How did things shift after undergraduate for you? And what advice would you have for someone else that may be in that stage of not knowing maybe what they want to do next?
Hmm. I mean, I will first say, like, I had the privilege to be able to go home after graduating. Like, my parents were happy to have me live at home and figure things out. And I know that's not the case for every student, but I had that time. And so I think one, it can be very stressful senior year if you don't have that option to have to find a job to like sustain yourself. And I mean, I was trying to do that, but I think balancing senior year with also applying to jobs or applying to master's programs is extremely difficult. I had a roommate that did the same thing, was applying to job or applying to master's programs when she was a senior. And I didn't understand how she could like juggle everything. The advice I would give is if you do have the opportunity to take time off, I think it can be very helpful just so you can thoroughly think through what next decision you're making. So I think a lot of people rush into a program without knowing exactly why they're going to that program or getting that degree. I think that's really common for high school students. It's just like, okay, now my next step is going to college, right? And like they just try to choose whatever major they think is best fitting for them, but they're 18 years old and that's really hard. So yeah, I would say take as much time as you need if you can. And if you can't, just remember that that first job is not your, it's not, it's probably not going to be your dream job. So it's okay to like have an introductory position that you don't absolutely love because it's going to be probably a stepping stone along the way.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that it was like a privilege to be able to move back home. And then I'm just curious how you felt when you were doing the bartender job, because
Mm.
sometimes I run into students out in the wild and they will have taken my career class and it's like they're almost embarrassed or ashamed that they're not using their degree. What was that like
Mm.
for you?
Yeah, it was interesting. I actually had a customer bring that up once. I definitely fought back a little bit because I don't think that it's anything to be ashamed of because you just spent 4 years doing school. and working your butt off, honestly. And you need some time to like decide what's next, I think. And I also believe that this is a separate point, but I think everyone should work at a restaurant or in the service industry. It helps you learn about people. It is a totally different type of stress. Like the multitasking it teaches you and the ability to work with people is such a skill that you can take away. And I've had countless potential advisors. When I was doing my interviews for getting my master's, I interviewed with a bunch of different potential advisors, and they all pointed out that I worked as a bartender on my resume. And I've had the same thing with job applications. People will point that out because it sets you apart and you get like a unique skill set from that you don't get from an engineering internship or like a research position. So,
Yeah, I mean, I did that too as an undergrad. I think when I was in San Diego, I worked at the Rusty Pelican, and this was back in the 1900s, way before your time. I remember exactly like I was wearing this little Dan skin, almost like a Tarzan top, and this little tie skirt, and I'd walk people to their tables, and I still think about some of the things I learned like 40 years later in that role, because
mhm,
it does kind of motivate you too to realize like, okay, I worked really hard so that I can use my degree, and how you respect and treat other people. It doesn't matter if you have the status and you're the CEO or you're the Uber driver. It's like treat everyone kindly, and kind of that rule that you learned in kindergarten, share and be nice, all of that good stuff. All right. So that was good to hear that you recommend that too. Let's get into what you're doing now. So I'm going to ask you in 30 seconds or so if you could convince our listener, if they were funding your research, maybe just being really honest, not super polished, why they should fund it, what you're building, and why it matters today.
well, first, so I'm designing an autonomous water sampler. The importance of an autonomous water sampler is that it makes research really easy for oceanographers. This might be a little bit longer than 30 seconds. It makes research easy for oceanographers because before this point, oceanographers would go and take a water sample themselves to then bring that water sample back to the lab. And to do that, you need a lot of water. You want to take it at different spots. Like oceanographers are interested in water way offshore and co close to the coast and stuff like that. So, and then you want to take the water sample at different times. So this requires a lot of labor. You need a lot of master students to go out in the field and help you out, or bachelor students to go help you. So an autonomous water sampler is a device that does that for you. So that's just the importance of autonomous water samplers. And then now exists many auto samplers, and then which are all very useful. But the auto sampler that I am aiming to design will be deployed on a Blue Robotics boat. So it's a surface vehicle. And so an oceanographer can sit on the shore and drive this boat around. And then the autonomous water sampler will take a sample wherever you tell it to. So it's basically just the easiest way for an oceanographer to sit on a beach and have like a controller and drive this boat around and then press when they want a sample to be taken. And when they're done taking all their samples, they can drive that boat back to shore and take their samples to the lab. So it's really just this auto sampler in general, its benefits are ease of use and low cost. The lab I work under is very interested in creating really accessible devices for oceanography labs. And so that's one of the benefits as well. I think science needs to be accessible. And so this device does that. There's a lot of auto samplers that are very, very expensive that are very inaccessible to many labs and
Well, I'm convinced. That sounds very important. All right, you won. You got the funding. I'm curious too, now that you're in grad school, because you're on your second semester of your master's. Are you
yes.
semester system? Yeah. So you're finishing up your first year, 2 year program. What is something about being a grad student that people don't really talk about that you think is important to hear?
I think I'm gonna give you a negative first, or not really a negative, but I think in grad school everyone is unsure of themselves. Everyone is unsure how to proceed with their research, but everyone is also acting like they know exactly what they're doing and they have everything together. But really like, and that's just life in general. It's just everyone is making their best guess and they're figuring things out along the way. And I don't think that I think people think that when you're a master's student or a PhD student, you have every single thing figured out. And that's not true. You have a lot of experience. You've taken a lot of courses. You have all this knowledge, but it doesn't mean you're absolutely sure about every step that you're taking. I also think one of the positives about grad school is I think it's the most amazing time because you're surrounded by people that have the same exact interests as you, and that makes it really special. So I think people think of grad school as an extension of college, but I don't see it that way. I see it as like, wow, finally I'm in these classes I actually care about with all these people who have the same exact interests and passions as me, and that's really cool.
I appreciate you normalizing the fact that literally no one knows what they're doing. And even on this podcast, I've interviewed the dean of our college, who is this very macho, incredibly brilliant genius. And you would think, oh my gosh, you must have so much confidence. And then he shared that he also suffers from what we call imposter phenomenon. And
Mhm.
I don't think there's anyone I've talked to after all the episodes we've had, maybe we've had around 40 episodes, that has said, I don't have it. And I feel like it's weird if you don't have it, because that means that maybe you're like too over the top believing in yourself. But when you feel that way,
Mhm.
how do you gain the confidence to keep going?
Now I can look back and see all the times that I've persevered through it. I think that's really the thing. I think in undergrad, I felt imposter syndrome being in a high level engineering program, and I still feel it today being in a high level master's engineering program. But I can now look back and see that test that I thought I was going to do really bad on. Oh, I actually really did well. Or that class I thought I was for sure going to fail, I didn't. And so I think we need to look back on our experiences more and note how we've overcome a lot of the challenges and trust that we are meant to be here. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. But it's so easy to fall into imposter syndrome.
The pattern of success is really important to remind
Mhm.
yourself of that. And I appreciate you saying that, to realize like you've gotten through 100% of your very tough days and keep going. But I
Mhm.
think there's still like a lot of people who they're very hard on themselves, and
Mhm.
they convince themselves that maybe they're not good enough and they're not ready. What would you say to that listener?
I would just say why not? Yeah, I think in every part of my life I've had imposter syndrome. So now I just treat it as like, okay, there's this little part of me that's telling me that, oh, you can't do this. But since that's ha been happening for a long time, I know to ignore it. I think a strategy for dealing with it is like positive self-talk. I think also talking with other people in your potential program or other people that are on the same path as you, because they'll probably say the same thing, that they're also feeling imposter syndrome, and kind of that shared experience can be helpful just to realize, well, they have it too, but they're achieving all these things. I just think that you'll know when to push yourself. I think there's a difference between not being ready to get your master's degree or take a job position or whatever, and there's being unsure about it because of like self-doubt.
And I think that's the whole point behind this podcast, to be honest with you, is just normalizing it and helping
Mhm.
people realize they're not alone. So they get to hear it from other people, and that kind of makes them think, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, I'm going to get through this too. All right, we're on our last question, Olivia. This has gone fast. We're going to go in our time machine and we're going to move into the year 2035. So
Mhm.
we're going a decade ahead. You've done all the hard work. You're growing into the person that you today are hoping to be, that new version of you. And your future Olivia Holbrook just pops right in, gets off her surfboard. Maybe she's there in Hawaii. Who knows where you'll be in 10 years? And she walks into your room today and says, Olivia, I'm here from the future and I need you to hear this. What do you need to hear today?
Probably like trust your gut when you're making decisions. Choose whatever feels right to you. Keep going through the challenges. And I think it would be a lot of positive self-talk that I would need to hear of like, you can get your project done. You're fully capable of completing all the research that you want to. Believe in yourself.
Absolutely. Trust your gut, believe in yourself, all of the things that will come from the future voice of you. Lots of great pearls of wisdom today. This has been so much fun. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.